Hello, hello, beautiful folks. Long time no see. I know it has been a journey, as it probably has been for most of you out there. Um, Here charging my car. The snowy and rainy. I've had. I'm not gonna say here and be like, "Oh, I've been so busy that I couldn't make a video," because that's not true. But I've just kind of been in transition. Honestly, it's been I'm not sure. Just kind of a weird funk, I guess. Not sure if any of you can relate to that. Um, but overall, I mean, here I am. Getting old. Look at that. Getting old, looking nappy. Um, there's just so much going on in the world. It's hard to just live. It's hard to just pretend like craziness isn't occurring right now. Maybe it affects you directly, maybe it doesn't, but ultimately it will. It's like a ripple effect. You may not feel it now, but you'll feel it later, whether it's at the store or some sort of something. So I can understand kind of where the funk is coming from, but it's really the other part of it is like, well, what do you fill your mind with? Like, I guess it's one of those things where I think negligence and avoidance and negligence is such a bad word, huh? But I mean, really, like, you just not caring enough to absorb world news, or even local information and whatnot. So I mean, I guess it's really it boils down to what you put into your mind, like food for your brain. If you surround yourself with information that's always negative, then naturally, I think you just absorb that, and it kind of manifests in your life on a day-to-day basis. Or you can choose to live without that information and kind of not really be informed of what's kind of been going on, but it also isn't affecting you in a negative way. um Regardless of what side of the political spectrum you're on, whether you're left or right or in the middle, or you don't care at all, ultimately, the things that are going on in the world will eventually affect all of us at some point or another. And there's a scary side of that, but there's also a positive side to that. In the midst of turmoil comes opportunity for solutions to these problems. Things that we didn't think would happen in our lifetime are happening, and it is challenging us as a species, and to really develop or move along. We can't just stay in the same revolving door of nothingness, just existing. And I think these times have been challenging in that way. I think for most of us, it's really encouraged us to start looking at life through a different set of eyes. At least it has for me. I as I've gotten older, I have definitely become more conservative. I think it kind of comes naturally for many of us, over time. Especially if you have kids, you kind of don't want them to live a life kind of like you did, but at the same time, without your journeys, and your experiences, you kind of wouldn't be who you are today. And I think that you know, life pushes us in unique situations where we have to overcome a lot of obstacles, so that, you know, we can kind of share those experiences or guide people away from them. But ultimately, I think it's something that everybody kind of has to deal with on their own. I mean, we can try to shelter our friends and family and kids and from harm, whether that's emotionally, spiritually, you know, physically, financially. But ultimately, I mean, history has shown that people have to just kind of figure it out on their own. You know, if they come to you and they're asking for your opinion, then great. But if not, you know, it's kind of one of those things where you know, aside from letting somebody like harm themselves, you know, you kind of gotta let them figure it out. And I think that's really hard. It's easier said than done, um, because we don't want people to be hurt. We don't want people to suffer. Um, we don't want to see them unhappy. But unhappiness is a dark road that can lead to happiness if we pursue it. You know, and I think it's necessary to walk through darkness in order to appreciate the light. Um, because there are only so many moments in our lives where it's super bright, you know, and we we don't spend enough time basking in it. We don't spend enough time absorbing it, and we end up, you know, rushing through that sunshine, and head right back into the dark tunnels and the dark paths. And I don't know, maybe there's comfort in that for some people. You know, it's kind of like it's an easy way to not become disappointed in yourself or in anybody else. So it's just, I'll remain here because I know what to expect. um but but then, you know, then what's the point at that point? You know, it's like, without ups and downs, it's just ups or just downs, and you don't really get the full experience of life, in my opinion. And you know, I sometimes I just have to remind myself, like, hey, you know, you're gonna be challenged, you're gonna be pushed, you're gonna be pulled, and you know, I think we all just need to, like, remember, like, especially if you're listening to this and you're like, well, my life's it's pretty good right now, like, wonderful, like, great, like, it's probably one segment in this that I maybe don't want people to be, you know, relate to. But the reality is you know, after the sunshine comes the moon, comes the dark, you know, and we have to just be prepared for our journey to get back out into the sunshine and to find that light at the end of the tunnel. You know, and in any given moment, at any given time, like, it's just, it can change. And I think that we just blow past the day and we just forget to, like, appreciate that we woke up when so many others didn't. You know, that we get to lay in a bed when so many don't. That we get to have a decent meal when so many don't. You know, we get to complain about life while we wear $100 shoes and walk around with $40 cups, and you know, and complain about life when there are people in the world that don't have any of those things, especially the basic necessities to survive. And you know, we are privileged in that way, and I think we forget because it's just normal, it's used to it. I mean, even in a poverty sense, in this country specifically, because it's the only experience I have, I mean, you can still find resources that will provide you with the basics when so many others can't. And, you know, I think that we forget how privileged we are in all of this, that we have what we have, that people envy us even though they don't know us, because of what we have and they don't, because of where they were born and we were born, because of where we live versus where they live. You know, there's a lot of variables in that, and ultimately I hope that one day we could all just get along, you know. As cliche as it sounds, I mean, cultural differences, I think, is a driving motivation to misunderstanding, you know, which can be perceived as racism and culturalism and all these other things. But it's you know, it's our foundation of who we are and where we came from, and and instead of, you know, pushing that down, we should be happy that, especially in our country, that we can share that foundation with many, and many others identify with it, you know, or they appreciate it for what it is. I mean, even more so than the people who are from that culture, you know. I could tell you how happy it makes me to, you know, go to, you know, a Day of the Dead ceremony and see so many different people from all over the world just admire, you know, my culture, and or go to a, you know, a folklorico performance and just look at the colors and the stories on stage, and just be in awe, you know, and be like, wow, that's so beautiful, it's so magical. I love sharing those moments, and I loved experiencing them as a kid. You know, as a performer, it was something that I didn't understand at the time, but now that I'm grown and I see my kids, you know, playing in sports, or participating in cultural activities, and just kind of seeing the crowd that's around and observing the surroundings, and just like, and I'm like, oh man, I've seen this a million times, but this is the first time for many, you know, and who am I to ruin that for them? But it's great to see that, you know. I wish more cultures would band together and share where they come from and who they are. I think it's great, and I think it's necessary, so that we can understand each other as a species just a little bit more, you know. But outside of that, you know, the underline is like, let's find a way to make like, I think the problem in society at the moment is that everybody, in a broader sense, not necessarily me or you, you know, maybe we're not, but there are many people who are forcing people to feel a certain way, speak a certain way, and I think that time and time again in history, like, people don't do well when they're forced to change who they are to allow somebody else to, you know, be okay. I mean, pick up a book, pick up any history book, you know. When people get backed into a corner, people revolt, and I mean that in a large scale, but also mean that in an individualized scale. You know, people don't want other people telling them what to think, what to believe, you know. And it's rough because, in a religious sense, you know, your job as a follower of whomever or whatever, me specifically, you know, as a Christian, and a believer in Jesus Christ, and a follower of Jesus Christ, I, you know, I'm constantly encouraged to be a disciple and to go out into the world and share my love for Jesus, and to, and the big picture is, I'm not gonna go and force people to feel or believe, or I'm not gonna go knocking on people's doors and tell them, hey, let me share this with you, let me tell you. God's gonna put opportunities in your life where you're gonna be able to touch somebody's heart one by one, and that one person is gonna spread that, and the next person, and the next person, the next person, and over time, that tree branch is gonna just really flourish, all because you got it from somebody else, you shared it with somebody else. For example, you're out eating and you see, somebody eating alone and they look really upset, and in your heart of hearts, you want to make that person feel better. Maybe that person is in a really dark place in that moment. That's your opportunity to step in and just say, hey, like, you are enough. Like, it's okay to be sad, but there are people that do care about you, that do want you around, that want you to be better. And one person in particular is Jesus Christ, right? Boom, there it is. There's your opportunity. And God's going to constantly put those situations in your heart, and it's up to you to pursue them, whether, a look on someone's face can tell you a million things, and it's easy to just write off a person because maybe you yourself are in that same position. I mean, that's a possibility, but if the opportunity arises, like, hey, why not? What's the worst that can happen? Somebody says, don't talk to me. Like, all right, cool. Hey, I'm going to pray for you anyway. I don't know you, but I sense that you're not in a good spot, and I'm gonna pray for you, and I'm gonna ask God to open your heart and open your mind, and to work in you, through you, so that you can get out of this funk, and if you're too shy to even do that, then do it inside, like, communicate, pray on the inside for that person, and that will transcend to them, just as well. But it's a great exchange in those opportunities. I was here over the summer. One of my long time friends was visiting. He himself has had a pretty unique upbringing, and he's gotten into a lot of trouble in the past, and he got saved, and he has been a phenomenal disciple. He has been somebody who honestly continues to encourage me even, it's just phenomenal to see him flourish from where he used to be to who he is today. And I pray for him all the time. And, through my prayers and in my prayers, I'm constantly encouraging him to just be better and to stay on the right path. And that even when life gets tough, sometimes it's easy to, like I said earlier, to revert back to those old behaviors because they're familiar, and so I say it in my prayers, like, hey, keep on going, man. Like, don't stop fighting. Don't stop, going down this great, wonderful, positive path, right? So from there to conclude that story, basically, is he was here visiting, and we were doing some sightseeing, and him and his daughter were here, and we were kind of walking around. I took him to this really cool lake near my house, and the really unique part about this lake is that it's this massive lake. It's so beautiful. The water just stands still, it barely moves, and you can actually see the reflection of the sky on it. It's so beautiful. But also to the right of it is a really big river, and you can kind of walk along it, and it's just, I don't know, it's just very beautiful, natural beauty, right? So we're walking, and we walk around, and we see this older man, and he's just kind of sitting there by himself, and he was smoking a cigar, and we kind of walked by him, and he kind of made eye contact with my friend, and in that moment, he asks my friend straight up, like, how long ago were you saved? And it was a surprise, because it's, we weren't out there preaching or nothing, we were just kind of sightseeing, and he just instantly knew that there was just something different about him, right? So we got to talking a little bit, and he shared a little bit of his story with them, and the guy shared a story with my friend, and it was just a really beautiful moment, because two complete strangers, just connected through Jesus, and that was just completely unexpected but phenomenal. Just a small, genuine reminder that God is in everything, and when you're anointed, when you're blessed, when you have that energy about you, it's just noticeable. It's like walking into a room and people just look your way, and it's like, wow, all I did was walk in. Like, what happened? Why is everybody looking at me? Do I got a booger? Do I got something? But no, it's because you have that fire from the Holy Spirit, and it's a great thing to have, and it's a great thing for people to notice, because it leads people to you and gives you more opportunities to share your story, or to share the gospel, or to share any messaging that you see fit in that moment. So I thought I'd share that. I replay that moment in my head all the time, because it was just so special, that this man that we've never met before, that we've never seen, just instantly was like, boom, like, I know he's a follower, and it was just right there. So, round of applause to that for sure. But, I'll conclude there. I always tell myself I'm going to do these videos that, just try to stay on one subject, but I can't. Like, my brain just goes everywhere, and I just kind of just talk. And honestly, that was kind of the point of these videos. It's just to share what I have inside, and hopefully it connects, or it's relatable for someone else, or somebody else vibes with it, and But anyway, stay warm out there, stay dry. I know it's raining everywhere in the country pretty much right now, but God bless you all. Take care, and I look forward to talking to you guys soon. Bye.